Hello and welcome to lesson 1 of week 3. In this lesson, we are going to look at the aggregate function, how to use aliases and join in MySQL. My name is Mildred. Now, aggregate functions are built-in functions in MySQL that we can use to perform operations on a set of values. Let's say, for instance, we want to calculate the average of something, or we want to return the minimum of a group of numbers, or the maximum. We want to return the number of rows that exist based on a condition, or the sum of something. So we have several, and your course resource for the week holds a list of all of the aggregate functions that we have, and we are going to use them as we need them throughout this course. So let's say we look at the payments table. So I'm going to use classic models, and now I want to see what the payment table holds. So the payments table has the customer number, the check number, the payment date, and the amount. And let's say we want to get the average of all of the payments, right? What's the average payment that was made? We have an aggregate function we can use to do this. So we'll say select, and now we have the aggregate function average written AVG, and in a pair of parentheses we want to write the column name that we want to average. So we want to average the amount column. So we want to select the average amount from the payments table. So it just returns one row of information with the average of all of the payments amounts. Now we return this, and we can see the column name is average amount. Sometimes you want to have a beautiful name for the return result set. We have something we call an alias. We use the has keyword and give the column a new name. Let's say as average amount, like this. So now this will now give our result set a good column name that we can understand. Alright, so if we want to count something like the number of rows returned from a query, we use count function. So let's say we want to select the number of customers from the payments tables. So we have in the payment table, let's select all from payment. So we select all from payments, and then we see that we have a customer number 103, 103, 103 repeated 3 times, right? But we want to get the number of unique customers. We can use the aggregate function count, like this, and we want to count the customer number. So let's say select count. So instead of all, we want to use customer number. So we just want to see the number of customers that made payment. Now this is not going to have a unique count, but it's going to return all of the rows of information that this has. So I'm going to count the customer numbers that we have. So we have 273, which means it counted duplicates also. But if we want to count uniquely, we can now use distinct. This distinct will come in the count function, and so I'm going to come here and I'll put select distinct. So we select count distinct customer number from payment. Now it will give us the unique number of customers, which is 98. We can also use the alias here to say has number of customers, like this, and we'll have a nice column name like that. So we have 98 unique customers, but the total number of payments made is more than 98. So as we go along, we'll look at other functions, but this just gives you a way to know how to use functions. You just write the name of the aggregate function, and in the parentheses what you want to have. We can also use the sum function to say you want to get the sum, or you want to perform arithmetic operations on the values in a column. So let's say that we want to return something like, let's look at the customers table. Select all from customers. So in this customers table, we have contact last name and contact first name. Let's say we want to return a single column of information that puts the first and last name of the contact together. So we want to just get the customer name and the contact first and last name. So let's say we select customer name. We want to select, so now we are not going to get the contact last name and the contact first name, but we use a concat function like this, and we want to concatenate the contact last name and the contact first name, and we can give it an alias to give it a beautiful name as contact name from customers. So when we do this, we will get the customer name. So we are going to return 2 columns of information, the customer name and then the contact name. Now what will happen with the contact name is that the first and last name will not have any space between them, and we can see the contact name has both first and last name without space. So how do we fix this? We can put a quote like this, just with a space and a comma between them, and when we run this, we now have a space between the first and last name for the contact name, like that. So we have the customer name and the contact name. like this. So in several real-world applications, you'll see uses of this. Let's say you want to put emergency contact and you want to just have a page on your application where you have the name of your client and the emergency contact name. So if you just want to get emergency contact, you can easily get the names without having to filter through several columns and rows of information to get that information out. So this is all about aliases and how we use functions today. Let's look at how we can get records from several tables, from more than one table at a time. There is something we call a join in MySQL, and the joins that MySQL supports are the inner join, we have the left join, the right join, and we have the cross join, and we're going to look at them one after the other. So when we use joins, we just want to return information across two or more tables. Let's say, for instance, that we want to get, now we have the customers table that has the customer name and the customer number, but when we come to another table like the payments table, for instance, we're not going to have the customer name repeated across tables. Now this is very useful when we get to where we create our own database and create our tables and we want to define constraints. One of the rules when you want to have a good database is you don't want to repeat information across tables, and if information is repeated, it should be done with something that we call a foreign key constraint, and we are going to look at that in the future lesson. But when we come to the payments table, now let's say select all from payments. So when we come to this payments table, we can see it has a customer number column, and this customer number column is what tells the user which customer made this payment. When we select all from customers, we have the customer number column. So there's usually a foreign key between the payments and the customers that now links this number. So wherever you change one number, it changes in every table that holds the same number. Don't bother so much about foreign keys for now. We are going to look deeply at that in a future lesson. But what we want to focus on is the common column that the two or more tables. The customer table has the customer number column. The payments table has the customer number column. So this is the common predicate that we use in our join statement. And how do we collect records from both tables in one query? We are going to use something we call join. We say we want to get all of the payments made by a customer, but we don't want to get just the customer number. We want the customer name to be in that returned result set. So we want to get the customer number, the customer name, the payment date, and the payment amount from the payments table, where we get the name and number from the customer table. Alright, so this is the syntax. You want to select. Now we looked at aliases a while ago where we say we can use has to rename a column. Sometimes you can just name a column without using an alias, and we'll see that as we use the join statement. Let's say I want to use an alias for the customer table, and I'll use the alias A. So I'll say select A dot customer name. So this A is an alias for the customers table, right? A dot customer number, alias now for the payments table, B dot I want the payment date, and I also want the payment amount, B dot amount. So we are selecting columns from two tables, and we alias A for the customer and B for the payment. So we say from. Now we are going to write the name of the table and the alias beside it so that MySQL will know that this A means this table. So we are getting this from customers A. So customers is A. So now it knows that customers is A. So we get this from customers A. Now we want to use the join statement. We have the first one, inner join. What inner join does is that it selects all the records that have matching values on both tables. So we use a common predicate. We want to use the customer number. So it looks at this customer's table. Does it have a customer number column? Yes. It looks at the payment. Does it have a customer number column? Yes. So it takes this common column that they have and matches their record and return all of the columns of information we want from both tables based on the customer number. So we are going to join payments. Now remember to put the alias B because we use B for payment here. So we are going to join this, and then we use on to write now the predicate, and we are doing this on the condition that customer number A.customer number, so which is the customers.customer number, is equal to B.customer number. So now we see how this works. We collected columns from both tables, and we use the alias to know which table we are taking these columns from. And then when we specify the table name, we put the alias beside it so that MySQL will know what table is A and what table is B. So it's the syntax is select column names from the first table, inner join the second table on the condition on the common columns, which is customer number that both of them have. When I run this, I will get this return. So we have the customer name, we have the customer number, we have the payment date, and we have the amount. So this has returned all the information from the customers table that has a matching record on the payments table. So if customer has a customer and in the payments table there is no record for payments for that customer, it is not going to return that one. It only returns what is matched between both tables, what both tables have. So the customer number must exist on both tables for it to return. Now the result set that is returned has the customers duplicated, like we see here, 103 several times, right? So what if we want to get the total payment for each customer and just return one row of information for each customer that contains just the total payment? We are going to look at this in the next lesson when we look at how to group data. Thank you and see you in the next lesson.